Welcome back, everyone. This is your girl, I am Lovely Ann, and welcome to the Pulsating Thoughts podcast. This is the podcast where we have real life, real people, real candid conversations. Okay. So today you may not see anyone. Don't fret. I promise you, this will still be a topic that someone along the lines may be able to relate to. I had such a difficult time trying to find someone who were willing to come on and talk about this publicly because I know it can be a very sticky subject matter. But I want to talk about colorism in Black America. And the way that I'm going to present it today is just what I experienced within my own life, my own personal experience. Okay. Now, before I even get started, if you have not experienced this, then this is not for you. However, we will not negate the fact that although you may not have personally experienced it, you have at some point heard of some of the negative connotation that that can be said about this topic, or you know of someone who personally experienced it, but may have heard one of your family members say something, right? So let me just talk about my own life. There is a thing with light skin versus dark skin. It is. Okay. And if you have not, again, experienced this, then this ain't for you. But let me just start with my own family. Okay. My grandmother was born in the 1930s in the South, okay, of Georgia. My grandmother's still alive, by the way. But there was always a comparison with her and her sister with who had the prettiest grandchildren. And it was the light skinned grandkids pinned against the dark skinned grandchildren. And at your own leisure, go back and read the Willie Lynch letter, the some may call the Willie Lynch syndrome, how the light-skinned slaves was pinned against the dark-skinned slaves, and you'll understand where this narrative or concept may come from. And you read that at your own leisure. But there was a difference between how the light skin was treated versus how the dark skinned grandkids was treated. I had to understand that my grandmother grew up in a time where racism in the South was a real issue. Okay, where there's time where she had said that walking to school, they were harassed by whites, how there were people hung in the woods, how there's it was segregated. So there were certain things you couldn't do. At certain times of the night, you had to be home. She did not graduate. My grandmother picked cotton. That was how they made money to take care of themselves. But anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, she also grew up with this colorism issue, and I could not expect, now hindsight, I could not expect anything different from her because people recycle what they know, right? And when we were younger, so my parents, when they got married, there was 6 of us that came from that union. And out of the 6, the darkest of the 2 was me and my sister. There was 4 boys and 2 girls. Okay. The darkest was me and my sister, and me and my sister experienced a lot of racism with her. My sister got it worse than I did because my sister was raised by my grandmother, but she got the bulk of some of the issues, those issues that carried on into her adulthood. And now, pushing almost 50 years old, my sister still struggle with some issues that she endured in her childhood trauma, right? There was a lot of things that my grandmother said to us growing up. She couldn't give a critique without throwing back our skin color, or black this and ugly this. So I have, for an example, I have always loved my legs. I'm a little on the tall side, 5'6.5". I've always loved my legs. And I remember being a young girl, I used to have this black dress that I used to love to wear, right? And any time that I wore shorts or just anything, my grandmother would say, well, where are you going showing those little black burn up legs? Or, you shouldn't wear that because it doesn't insinuate your black skin, or it doesn't look good on black skin. And I was like, wow, okay. I think when it really hit me, you know what? Let me go back before I state that comment. Yes, over the years, with all of the criticism, it did affect my self esteem. Okay, where I did not feel pretty enough. I felt like the light, being lighter skin was prettier as opposed to my dark skin. It did not, I didn't think that it was pretty. In addition to her, I also had a sibling who was light skinned, so to speak, who also had that same issue. Oh, I'm the prettiest because I'm light. He would always say that. Or you're so ugly because you're dark. It would always be emphasis on skin color. To this day, me and my brother, we don't get along, but none of us really have a relationship with him. And that's neither here or there. But I just only put that out there because it wasn't just her. It came from other members of the family. I never experienced that from my mother. I never experienced that from my mother or my biological father per se, but he wasn't around for me even to say that I did. I know him, but I really don't know him. But anyway, yes, it affected my self-esteem in high school and my confidence level, and interacting and even participating in certain extracurriculum activities. It did affect my self-esteem and what I felt that I was capable of achieving. Shortly thereafter, after I graduated from high school, I became pregnant with my first son. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and that aha moment for me. She had said to me, I expected her being disappointed because I had just graduated. They wanted me to go to college, the high expectations of any parent or grandparent that they typically would have. I made good grades in school, academically. So yes, there were expectations for me. So when I was very hesitant to let her know that I was pregnant, because that was the backlash that I expected. I'm disappointed in you, why, whatever. Instead, when I told her that I was pregnant, the very first thing that came out of her mouth was, two dark-skinned people don't make pretty children. And I'm looking like, wow, did you just say that? Like, did you just say that? Two dark-skinned people don't make pretty children. And from that, it started the separation of, you know what? I got to get away from this lady. That was the first time in my life where it really clicked for me to say, you know what? This is not healthy. This is not good. Yeah, that pretty much started it when I had my children, which I can't say, I don't think that my choices and partner, because my first son is dark skinned like me, and my other two kids are on a lighter complexion because they take after their dad, my ex-husband. I'm not going to say I strategically chose partners with lighter skin, so to speak. No, because I don't really have a preference. Although some people do, I don't necessarily have a preference. But I do remember a time where my son, my oldest son, my ex-husband would say little things regarding his skin complexion as well. And that, even with me, some of the backlashes and arguments that we have, it was always emphasis on your black ass, or black this or black that. Growing up, I remember as an adolescent, there was one girl in particular that lived in a neighborhood, and still to this day, I don't care for her. I will be able to admit that I don't care for her. But she was another one, because your childhood, you remember certain things. You remember how people treat you. I think it was Maya Angelou who said, people will forget the things you say, people will forget the things you do, but they will never forget the way you made them feel. And for that, I won't, and although I understand now that I don't have control over people per se, and it's not my job to try to control anybody, but I will never forget the impact and the things that you said and did and how that made me feel. But even coming up as an adolescent with her, she was on a lighter skin spectrum, that she will always say things about my skin complexion. Oh, you're not pretty enough. Oh, you're so black. Oh, you're so ugly. It will be emphasis on that. And I will never forget that. I will never forget that. So it's just some things that sticks with you. Now, do I have that issue now? Not at all. I don't. Now I know, with everything that I've endured and going to counseling for other issues, I understand now that people display who they are and what they feel within, so, and people will project that onto others. And it was just an issue. My sister, I really wish that she was in a place to sit back and that will come forward to talk about this, because she will be able to tell you some of the things that she endured growing up that sent her down a pathway that really did not benefit her long term. But it just goes to show you the childhood trauma and how it can affect an individual, and how they, maneuver through their adulthood and the stuff that they carry in the long run. So yes, this is a real issue within the Black community. Not just within my own household, but just growing up and seeing some things in school. There was always the light skin versus the black skin. I don't do light boys, or I don't do, it was always something. So let me know in the comments if you have endured any of this at some point. Maybe it has not directly affected you. Maybe you had a cousin, a sibling, somebody along the way that experienced this. How do we move from this? How do we move forward? I don't think the racism in America, I just think it was something that will possibly exist until the end of time, unless there's some changes that is made along the way. But we only have control of the people of our households. I'll just put it that way. So for me, when it came to raising my children, there was never an emphasis on light versus dark. I love you guys equally. Okay. You guys are a byproduct of me. So I believe in setting the standard and setting the foundation very early in the household, the things that are tangible, the things that you can control, be an exemplification of what you want your offspring to be in everything that they touch. So I think that's how change can start to happen within our communities, the things that we have control over. But I will not sit back and say that it is not an issue and it doesn't exist. But I definitely would like to hear from other people who may have endured the hate that happens within our own Black community. Let me know. Write something in the comments. If you want to be featured on this episode of Colorism in Black America, let me know. But I'm just parking the car as it pertains to our Black community and how we treat one another, and the issue that does exist as it pertains to light skin versus dark skin. So if you have any input that you would like to add to this, drop it in the comments. Let me know what you endured. If you want to sponsor this podcast, listen, shoot me an email. Go to www.pulsatingthoughts.com if you would like to sponsor and help us grow. But in the meantime, I would love to know who else experienced this. Did you have a grandmama? Did you have a grandfather, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, somebody that made you feel indifferent because of the color of your skin? Did they make you feel as if you were less than, or that you wasn't good enough because of the hue in your skin? And I would like to encourage anybody who's reading this, or who's watching this, or who may still struggle with this issue, to move forward. We are more than the color of our skin. God doesn't make mistakes. You will never get to that point where you can move past it until you can look in the mirror and love the reflection that looks back at you. So take the time to get to know that individual. You move forward, and I promise you, on the other side of the tracks, life is definitely worth living. So let me know. Have y'all experienced this? Got an auntie, cousin, friend, somebody who always wanted to kind of really throw that at you? Do you have an issue? Do your child experience this because of the color of their skin? It may look a little different than you, but do your child experience this type of racism amongst their own people? Let me know in the comments. Looking forward to the feedback. Until then, I'll catch you guys on the next episode, okay? Peace out.